Good evening, everyone. We have today Antano John and Harini Ramachandran, who will enlighten us on neuro-linguistic program and how to go about using neuro-linguistic techniques with respect to investment decisions. Antano John, co-founder of School of Excellence, was trained by John Grinder and Richard Bandler, the founders of neuro-linguistic programming. He started the School of Excellence in 2011 and has helped in the recovery of people with medical conditions such as paralysis and autoimmune diseases. Antano knows about 100 programming languages, has won the Yahoo Hack Award twice for the most innovative hack in 48 hours, and was Chief Technology Officer at the age of 24. He has authored 2 books and has published papers on wireless network, artificial intelligence. Welcome, Antano. Harini Ramachandran, co-founder of the School of Excellence, is an established playback singer popularly known as Megha. She started her singing career in the year 2007 with music director Vijay Antony in the film Naan Avan Illai, and worked with music directors such as A.R. Rahman, Ilayaraja and Haris Jayaraj. She has over 75 songs and more than 200 ad jingles to her credit in Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Bengali and Oriya. She co-founded School of Excellence in 2011 and has been helping music performers reach the next level through projects such as one sponsored by A.R. Rahman for a group of string instrumentalists. She also passionately devotes her time in helping the tone deaf and rhythm deaf people.
Harini and I come from a very different background. It's definitely nothing to do with investment. But we come from this particular space where we understand human behavior. And in the past, we have worked with people from various sectors. And we've seen that the decisions people make are not only based on what they have learned or what they know, but a lot of time it's based on how they feel at a particular moment in time. Now, investors, entrepreneurs, sales professionals, students, everybody makes decisions. And sometimes you can make a decision that will build your life. Sometimes you can make a single decision that can completely ruin the life. This is the space we come from. We understand what makes people make wrong decisions, what gets people to make good decisions. So I think we have 45 minutes together. 45 minutes.
To an hour, 45 minutes.
45 minutes to an hour. So, Meera also told me about some questions that I think people from who have not come here have also asked regarding how some specific questions. These are all related to state. I think the questions that were asked are, how do you, when you're investing and there's this fear as to should I go ahead with it or not, and sometimes there's that greed. You have to cut loss or you need to try it out before putting in a large amount. But then there's that greed and then people go and invest even though they logically or intuitively know that's not the right thing to do. So majority of what we are going to be doing today is around handling this question. So I'm going to talk about like 5-10 minutes, that's it, about why Harini and I together, of course, on why people make decisions they know they shouldn't make and how to avoid it. But the rest of the session, Harini and I are going to do it in such a way that not only do you have a tip, but maybe you could use neuro-linguistic programming yourself to recondition your thinking in such a way that you wouldn't make a mistake in the future. At least you wouldn't feel afraid or greed. Do you think that's something that you want to explore?
Sure.
Yeah, surely. What about the both of you? Are you also interested in this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But I have a fundamental question.
You have a fundamental question, okay.
A mistake is known after the fact.
Right.
And we make decisions under uncertainty. So what is right or wrong is known after the fact.
Right. So obviously we can't play God to predict the future. But yes, to answer your question, see, the idea is we know much more than we think we do, right? And this is why, if you look at it, it's so interesting that, as a physicist, as somebody who's spent a lot of time on technology, for me, one of the fascinating things is how children learn to cross the road, right? Because as a physicist, as somebody who's trained on calculating speed and movement, it's a very complex phenomena, especially there's a speed breaker and there are two vehicles and a bus is coming. The probability that the bus will either stop before it hits you or it will hit you, if I have to put a mathematical equation to it, it's not a simple direct speed into distance. There are some complexities involved. And typically people learn such formulas and equations when they're in like 10th standard or 12th standard. But the interesting thing is that does a child wait till he or she learns physics before they actually know when to cross the road? They don't. They know how to cross the road even before understanding logically what speed that bus is moving at. So there are a lot of things that we learn by bringing into simple rules and analysis that can be put into formulas that we think will be able to answer certain things. But there's also the other form of learning where we know certain things and we take them for granted. Do you sometimes go to somebody's house, in the first 1 minute when you enter that house, you think you know that person, you have a feeling he's an organized man or he's not organized? Do you have such examples?
No, I don't make such preconceived judgments.
You don't make judgments, but have you ever gone somewhere and said that, okay, this person could be more organized, less organized? Not judgment, but some vague start?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, when you meet a person, when you first saw me, did you make a judgment?
Not really, no.
No. Did you have an open mind as to, okay, let's explore what's going on over here? Or did you start with, okay, what is he going to say? Or this is really going to be exciting?
Nothing of that.
It has to be one of them, right?
I'll give you the answer after the session.
After the session. See, the point I'm making is you already made a judgment. There is no way you cannot make a judgment. As humans, we are conditioned to make a judgment and to validate it. The difference between making a judgment and being a fool, and making a judgment and overcoming assumptions, is verification. As humans, in the first 5 seconds, we want it or not, consciously, whether we make a judgment or not, we have decided how this is going to be. This is science, this is Harvard, right? Saying that in the first 5 seconds, our brain is made, it's put a frame, it's put a bracket around what is this person like, whether this person is going to be interesting, whether this person is of the same wavelength or not. Now, we may not consciously know that, but everything we think about this person is already based on those filters. And we all have example of sometimes we meet someone, we have a good feeling. We feel like Lakshmanka, or we feel like we can connect with this person. And sometimes we meet someone and we have something is fishy about that person, even before we've actually spoken anything. This is called intuition. And in the past, people thought that, the intuitions are like some spirit or something like that. But actually, these intuitions happen because of the knowledge and data that we have collected over a lifetime. So I think this author called Malcolm Gladwell, he wrote this book called Blink. And in this particular book, he talks about stamp collectors. Stamp collectors are kind of investors because they collect stamp as an investment and then they sell. And he talks about how there are these stamps that are made that look so much like the original. When you look at it, it feels like this is an original thing. And they show these stamps to these experts, who've been collecting stamps for many years. And the experts, when they look at it, they immediately say, no, that's a fake. It's a fake stamp. Then they asked the experts to prove. Now they said, prove it. And apparently the experts took about 5 to 6 months to find out exactly why it is a fake stamp. Like, what is a measurable way to say it's a fake stamp? So the author in this book makes a claim that in the blink of an eye, these experts have identified which is a fake stamp and which is a original stamp. Now, it may appear like after they did the tests, they discovered whether it's original or not. But actually, they found out whether it's fake or not much before the tests. They only validated their intuition by the test they made. These are just a few evidence and examples that we actually know a lot more than we think we consciously do. In every moment, when we meet somebody, when we hear about an opportunity, when we're about to make a decision, there's so much going on. In the blink of an eye, there's such complex patterning that we definitely do. Now, there are sometimes things that happen that are dangerous for us. Like, we know that something is not appropriate, and there's the right brain telling you, don't go for it. It's like a fake thing. And then you're logically evaluating and you're saying, well, everything looks all right. And then you invest into it, and then after like a month or two, when you think the consequences are known, you go, oh, it's a bad decision. Now, obviously, we can't predict everything, but what I'm proposing is that what you know with your unconscious resources, with your lifetime of experience, with what I call as unconscious patterning, is possibly much, much more than what you know consciously at that moment. So, how is this useful to you? Right? Now, you see, back then, 30, 40 years ago, people had this idea, this notion that you have to do hypnosis to tap the power of the unconscious mind. So they believed that somebody has to sit in a chair and you have to show a pendulum, and then you have to tell them sleep, and then they go into deep sleep, and only then you can access the unconscious. But science today is proving that that is not true, that there is this continuous, ongoing communication between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And one form of such communication is intuition. There are other forms as well. Have you, in Indian history, traditionally, have you heard of these things where they say if the eye twitches, it means something, and then the other eye twitches, it means something else? So part of what I do is I help people change, right? So how do I help people change? I use some variety of techniques. But one of the techniques I use to help people change is by communicating with what we call the unconscious mind. And what I mean by that is, sometimes I want to change a person to, stop getting angry, or to quit smoking, or, overcome a medical situation. So then I say, unconscious mind, I'm talking to you. If you're listening, and if you want to say yes, make that person's ear become hot. And then the person's ear becomes hot. And I say, thank you, stop it, it becomes normal. Say, repeat it, it becomes hot again. Then I say, just like you have a way to say yes to me, I also want you to have a way to say no. So then I say, unconscious, you're listening to me, now show me how you're going to say no. I propose that you make the ear cold. And then the person suddenly says, the ear has become cold. And I say, stop it. And then it stops. In that situation, what I have managed to do with that person is I've established what I call as involuntary communication, right? which means they can't consciously make the ear hotter or colder, but the involuntary systems, the part of the brain that controls the heartbeat, the part of the brain that controls the blood pressure, I'm communicating to this part of the brain and it's responding. Not a coincidence, because when I say stop, it stops. Say repeat, it repeats. Now, you understand what's going on there. I have a systemic method of knowing when my unconscious is saying yes and when my unconscious is saying no. Now, typically when I do things like this, people look at it and go as if it's out of the ordinary. It's extraordinary. But the truth is, what I did with these people are just amplifying and redoing what our brain is already doing for us. So you remember this thing, now I have a systematic method of the ear becoming hot, yes, and ear becoming cold, no. That form of involuntary communication is already in place. The problem is most of us don't know how to recognize the meaning of that communication. So in our tradition, when people said, when your eyes twitch, it means X. When your ears tingle, it means Y. They have kind of generalized the meaning, but there is a deeper science in it. The deeper science is that these twitches that happen are not some random movements, but they are choices that the involuntary system is making. Choices to communicate to you that something is going on. Is there somebody here with some form of a pain? Let me show you a demonstration of what I'm talking. There's somebody here who has some form of some pain, like you've been suffering with this for quite some time, like a neck ache or a backache. It could be chronic as well. But if you have it right now, you can we could explore if it's possible for you to overcome that. Anybody here? No pain in this room? Come on, that's a lie.
It may be a pain to our boss, but people at home. So
Nobody here has any physical pain?
I have on my ligament.
You have on your ligament. Is this like it's not like a muscle stretch or something, but is it like a chronic condition or something?
I'm not very sure. Due to badminton play, I got this about 8-9 months back.
Okay, it's been there for some time now, so it's not like some temporary thing that just came up. Okay, great. And do you have the pain right now?
No, only when I try to bend my hands and stuff. So.
Only when you try to bend the hands and stuff. But when you sit like this, there's no pain?
No.
No. Okay, anybody else here? Nobody? Shoulder pain, spondylitis, headache, like you're sitting right now and you feel some, wow, this is a healthy group of investors. Okay, so if you had pain, and I would have shown you a demonstration of what I just spoke about, You remember I told you that we can set up involuntary system of communication? Pain is one such communication. When people specifically face pain, it's that involuntary part of the brain saying, hey, you're doing something you shouldn't be. And most times when people have pain, I can directly establish communication channel with the pain. And in a way, I say stop, it stops, say come back, it comes back. And then we can explore as to what is the meaning of that pain. So in neuro-linguistic programming, we call these as spontaneously occurring signals, SOS. Now, what I am hoping to do in this session is connect you back to your spontaneously occurring signals so that you can become aware of them when it happens, right? Let me ask you something. Since this is a healthy group and pain is like my favorite thing, do you have these other involuntary twitches like eye twitching or anxiety or something that comes when you're investing sometimes?
Happens all the time when you're bleeding. When your investment portfolio is bleeding.
When you're in, what happens all the time?
Anxiety,
Right.
The desperation, making random decisions.
Right. So what you're pointing at is this is something that doesn't happen once in a while. It's something that whenever things are bleeding, you have that anxiety. And does that help you make good decisions or bad decisions?
Most of the time it's bad decisions.
Okay.
Because it's done in a haste.
Because it's done in a haste. So do you believe that if today something happens and when things are bleeding, you are grounded, you're not hasty, you're not anxious, and you're focused, you're worried about what is going wrong. At the same time, you're not hasty. Do you think that will help you make better investments?
Yes.
It will. Okay. So that's something that we're going to explore today as well. Okay. Which means, see, there are two things over here. One is what I call a problem emotion. Let's say I'm an established and seasoned speaker, and for me, it's easy to speak. And I'm not a person who goes like that, but on one specific occasion, I'm about to enter the stage, and then my body goes like that. That is what I call a spontaneously occurring signal, right? So you have to be able to distinguish between what is habitually a response you have and what is involuntary communication. So an amplified form of SOS is pain, but SOS also comes in other forms. It can come, sometimes people give it a name like negative thinking. But if you're not habitually a person with negative thoughts, and at that particular day you're having negative thoughts, or if you're feeling anxious, then my proposal for the first part of the speech is that you consider that as a spontaneously occurring signal, a method for your unconscious to communicate to you, and not as a problem behavior, right? Now, regarding the problem emotion, which is something that for some people it happens all the time in specific situations, like when you're losing money or something, regarding that, we can reprogram it. You see, the thing about these problem emotions is it's just not in the mind. Because if you're anxious, if you're not happy, or if you are hasty, these emotions actually have biochemicals inside your body that support it. So if you're smiling, your body releases some chemicals. If you're angry, your body releases a different type of chemicals. If you're anxious, your body releases another set of chemicals. So these are not just in the mind. What is in the mind becomes physical. So when your body releases these chemicals, they impact the way you think. They impact your breathing, they impact your physiology, and finally it's a system that is in a mess.
These are called as neurotransmitters, if I'm right. In terms of those, they call it as neurotransmitters. I came across this, which is called as neurotransmitter imbalance. If somebody has, where they are normal, but due to certain circumstances, where they suddenly become so very anxious, or suddenly a fear comes in, where it is due to a neurotransmitter imbalance or brain chemical imbalance, they call it as, which translates into various emotions, which
well, I don't necessarily call it neurotransmitters, but it is a chemical reaction that's going on. In NLP, we call these as states. So states means your mental focus, where your focus is, what are the chemical reactions going on in your body, and how you're breathing, how you're responding to situations, and so on. And the way we look at this particular thing called state is that state is something that you create. The environment can be the same, but how you respond to that internally creates the state you go into. Now that's a good news, which it means that you can change it, you can reprogram it, right? Like say, let's say two people are put in a difficult situation, right? They go into office and they have the same boss who's like a hell of a person and he's screaming at them. One person would do something internally, the way he is thinking, that is going to make him stressful. The other person in the same situation can respond differently. He or she would think differently that gets them to actually perform even with that pause. So, whole of neuro-linguistic programming is about state choice. So that in the same external circumstance, how do you have a different internal response that puts you in a better state of mind?
Because after getting into a bad or a not so useful state of mind, it's already too bad. I mean, when you think about things like anger, nobody wants to get angry. Everybody thinks they want to be in a calm state, but something happens. But there's one person that's reacting in a way that they get really, really angry. For some people, it goes rage, right? And then 5 minutes later, they look back and they regret it. Now, at that given point of time in their neurology, they lack choice. They lack choice of other emotions. Using neuro-linguistic programming, what we help them with is give them other choice in that same situation. Now, this doesn't happen by telling them, don't become angry, or if you get angry, you count from 100 to 1, or you start breathing differently, or go and drink water, or get up, do something different. Now, when you're angry, you don't remember to do any of that. When you're angry, you're angry. The emotions, the chemicals of the body produces at that given point of time elicits a particular emotion, a state of mind where everything, your reactions are all in that direction until something happens and you cool down automatically. Now, what we're going to explore here is not wait for you to get angry or not wait for you to get into that, whatever state of mind, anxiety, nervousness, whatever those states of mind it is, that that once you go in there, you end up, more often than not making bad decisions. What we're going to explore is how can we use neuro-linguistic programming to program yourself now, such that when something happens later on, even earlier you would have gotten into that bad state, but now you will begin to explore automatically some other choices that will be available to you. So you're not chanting mantras there, or you're not thinking of things to do at that given point of time, but automatically, behaviorally, in your body, you're experiencing a new state of mind, a different state of mind, a better state of mind that will allow you to make good decisions. That's what this is.
Yeah. So, I mean, have you heard of this thing where people say that drunkard, whatever he says in the night, he won't remember in the morning, and what he says in the morning, he won't remember in the night. That kind of talks about two states of mind, right? What I'm proposing is there are like various states of mind, like there are 50, 100 different types of states of mind. And once a state shifts, whatever decisions or whatever promises you gave to yourself, you may not remember. So you might tell yourself saying, I won't be hasty. But when something is going wrong and your state shifts, all the earliest sayings are just like our drunkard said earlier. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a demonstration of programming, which means in a simple activity, we show you how you can program yourself ahead of time so that even when things go wrong, you're in the right state of mind. You don't have to do anything consciously then, you're setting it up now. So that if something goes wrong, like you said, when he's losing money or it's bleeding, at that time, instead of hastiness, there's a new emotion that takes him.